North Korea, as a lot of your viewers and listeners will know, has been vastly getting into cryptocurrency and crypto theft. It's quite hard to work out a total figure as to how much this accounts for, because obviously cryptocurrency goes up and down in value, generally trending up in value. I've heard figures upwards of $6 billion worth of currency stolen through cryptocurrency. Most recently, in February this year, we had the biggest theft ever, not the biggest hack ever, not the biggest crypto theft ever, the biggest theft ever of $1.5 billion stolen from a cryptocurrency exchange. That took under 8 minutes for them to do.
This is extraordinary. People write films about the great train robbers nicking a few million, or Brink's Mat, and but these figures are colossal, aren't they? Why aren't they getting more attention?
Well, yes, there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, it takes place online, and it's to do with cryptocurrency. And I think people have this idea of, oh, it's funny money. And also the people who are into crypto, well, they're just sort of spivs and speculators. And if they get robbed, well, sort of who cares? I tell you who cares. Kim Jong-un cares, because if indeed it was North Korea stealing this 1.5 billion, where does it get spent? Well, there's some really interesting research about quite how many missiles North Korea is sending to Russia to use on Ukraine. There are moments, there are days in that conflict where Russian artillery batteries are only firing North Korean missiles. That's all that their entire stockroom is just filled with North Korean stuff.
Wow.
That's where the 1.5 billion is going. And if your energy price has gone up, if your price of bread has gone up in the last couple of years, because that conflict in Ukraine, that is now being stoked by North Korea, that is getting the money from the hacks that they're doing. So join the dots, and this, oh, it's over there, it's crypto, it's North Korea, it doesn't matter. Suddenly it starts to matter. Yeah, your energy bill's higher now, your bread bill is higher because of this stuff.
Wow.
The problem is, to get the effects, you have to sort of zoom out quite far. And for a lot of people, that's a bit of a difficult challenge, but really worth taking the effort, because you start to see that these hacks actually have an effect, a real consequence on us.
Yeah. So Alice, Emily, one last question before we move on to the next topic. So.
I'm just really interested in this idea of kind of the trivialization of online crime. And, you sort of saying like, well, it's online and it just doesn't, people just don't really think that matters. What do you think about that? And do you think that plays a role in how easy it is for criminals online to get away with extortion?
Yeah, absolutely. The most common reported crime in the UK, and I suspect it's the same in a lot of other countries, is fraud in the UK. We have a fraud epidemic. There is, millions and millions of pounds of people's money is being drained out of the UK. They are suffering huge consequences. They are not then able to spend that money in the UK. So there's an economic impact on this. I know there's legislation come through. I know that the government, the Home Office, are acknowledging this and trying to move towards something about it. But whenever you hear these, comments from people about, police funding, it's all about, well, we need more police on the streets, we need more PCSOs and so on. That's not where the crime's happening. And the other problem with cybercrime is what I call the Superman 3 crime. I don't know whether you guys remember Superman 3. Richard Pryor plays one of the baddies in Superman 3.
Oh, yes.
He plays a bank clerk who figures out the bank is writing off a fraction of a cent at the end of every transaction of the little. So he creates a computer program that harvests them all together and then makes millions. He then immediately buys a Lamborghini and gets spotted and sacked. But this is the model of cybercrime. They do not steal generally millions and millions from victims. Sometimes they do with the North Koreans on the top end ones, but they're equally happy to steal £5 from 1 million people because you've made £5 million. That's the problem. Is the losses are small. They've effectively aggregated the losses for people, and so nobody really cares enough to do it. If everybody was losing all of their money, we'd take it seriously. But if a load of people lose a bit of money, nobody really cares enough. The government doesn't get involved enough. The police don't get involved enough. But the criminals have still cashed out an amount. It's the ultimate sort of networked effect of crime. It's extremely effective.
Yeah. So, Jeff, I think this also plays on the way that policing is structured, because the police will typically not go after criminals unless there's a large loss. But that sort of aggregated loss across an entire population, which is where the harm is being done, doesn't fit with the way that policing is structured. So I wanted to completely change the mood. As my final question with you, Jeff, is going back to that talk that I went to of yours many years ago. You explained packet switching, which is the way that data moves around the internet, and it was the best explanation of packet switching. And this is like is this Fesshole moment? So I can confess to you that I completely stole this, and I think Igor has a couple of videos for you.
Full citation.
So for people who are listening rather than watching, what Jeff did was he brought a potato head, Mr. Potato Head, into the room, broke it up into little bits, and got everybody to move the bits of Mr. Potato Head around. And so I don't know if we can see the video, Igor, but during the pandemic, I asked Izzy, our graphic designer, to do me a virtual version of Mrs. Potato Head. But of course, being a nerd, I couldn't leave it there, because actually, of course, packet switching isn't the whole point of the packet switching. If you can line up the next video, Igor, is that it isn't a hat or an arm or a leg. It's all these little bits of data that just disintegrate into little packets and then go through this dispersed network, and then once they've gone, tracing whatever path is the best for them at the time, then they reassemble through the magic of TCP/IP, knowing exactly where to go. So I thought I would just confess and show
a development on that theme.
An inspiration, and thank you to you for that brilliant analogy.
I don't know if that's a question for you, Jeff, or just a moment's tribute.
You can react. A tribute.
Sounded like a confession to me. No, that's brilliant, because look, the Mr. Potato Head packet switching, the idea that internet traffic is divided up and sent across the internet and reassembled, it worked okay as a demo. It's certainly a lot of fun, and it was a great way of just getting that in front of an audience and doing that live. The flaw, which your animation addresses, is that the amazing thing about packet switching is all the packets are the same size and contain the same content in the same way. Which is like if we had if every parcel was the same size, every letterbox the same size, every delivery van the same size. It's the uniform nature of it that makes the whole thing work, which obviously Mr. Potato Head isn't, because the hat's bigger than the arms and so on. So I will just tell one sort of little story about that. We did this mobile phone interception show around the world. We did it in loads of different places, and the Mr. Potato Head demo was part of it, was an element of it. So I'd always have to make sure I had the Mr. Potato Head stuff and a potato. And one event we did, I forgot the potato inevitably. So I was like, oh, never mind, I'll nip out, I'll get a potato. There'll be a shop nearby. The only shop I could find was one of those corner shops that's got quite an obscure selection of vegetables. So all I could find was a sweet potato. So it did look like we had a sort of reduced Mr. Potato Head.
A distorted one arriving through the internet.